something that we're really, really trying to avoid. So things like new weapons you can always unlock through gameplay. A lot of those weapons you could get with Station Cash, which is our in-game proprietary currency, but because none of them are actual upgrades to each other, you're never really buying an advantage. You're just unlocking a different playstyle by using Station Cash to get those. And things that actually do give you power, like a grenade, makes me stronger than I was without a grenade. It's just a straight-up power add. You can't use Station Cash to buy that type of thing at all. Those are purely in-game resources to be able to unlock. The kind of things that will be exclusive to Station Cash. In fact, Adam, maybe you can pop open the store really quick and we can take a look at some of the stuff that's in there. If you can find a safe spot again. So he has most of the stuff unlocked in here, but you can kind of get an idea for how the store is laid out and how you can see the different types of things that are available. So I'll go into infantry customizations. So these are things like different armor attachments. These are cosmetic things like horns for my helmet or some cool little doohickeys that I can put on the side of my armor. These things are all purely cosmetic. They don't give any sort of gameplay advantage whatsoever. So these are the type of things that people will be buying exclusively for Station Cash. But if you go into infantry equipment, or infantry weapons, excuse me, sorry. So here's all these different weapons that he has access to, and he can go through it and unlock any of these that he wants to, purely using resources in the game, or if he wants to get them quicker, he can use them. He can use Station Cash. So we're planning on having probably around 75 or so weapons at launch for each one of the factions. That's infantry weapons only. Vehicle weapons is probably going to be about 40 to 50 vehicle weapons for each one of the empires. Different vehicles are going to have access to more weapons. The transport vehicles will have fewer weapon choices than a tank, for instance, which is all about having weapon choices. But they're all going to have a huge amount of certification growth that they can do, and a huge amount of customizability that they can do within them. So this particular base, I was saying, is captured sort of in a conquest manner. So each one of these points that you can see on the map, there's a point F in front of them. You have to kind of assault that point and capture it, and then you begin earning tickets towards it. So right now, Adam's Empire isn't doing very well. They're TRs, so they never really do very well. And they have no points captured, or I guess they have point B captured, and that's it. But the NC, which is clearly the best faction, has 4 points captured, so they're doing a very good job of defending this base. We also have the Manu Sovereignty attacking at the same time, our third faction. I don't have much to say about them because I think they're really slimy, but maybe Termel can talk about them a little bit later. But each one of the factions has their own sort of unique feeling in terms of what type of weapons they have access to, their vehicles that they have access to. Certain ones are all about... Just gets me feeling the NC, for instance, are all about hitting hard. They move a little bit slower, but they can survive in fights a little bit longer. Their weapons are largely experimental. They use like Gauss rifles, so railguns, magnetic stuff, that sort of stuff. Their theme is all about sort of being an insurgent faction. They're the rebel faction on the continent. The Terran Republic, which Adam's playing right now, is the most militaristic of the factions. They're very much the organized government force. Their weapons are very sophisticated, modern-themed assault rifles, and for the most part, their weapons are built around putting the most lead down the hallway as fast as possible. And their tanks are sort of the most maneuverable, their vehicles are the fastest, so they're all about agility and basically being able to get into situations really quickly and kind of be able to get out of them really fast too, because they lose a lot. And then you have the Manu Sovereignty, which is our third faction. They're the ones that are based on alien technology. So they use a lot of energy weapons, plasma weapons. Their tanks are hover tanks, so they can strafe, whereas the other ones can't. Each one of these sort of fit into each other and kind of create a paper, rock, scissors balance, where some of them are really strong at air vehicle gameplay, and some of them are really strong inherently at ground vehicle gameplay. So the way you fight against different empires, depending on which empire you are, is totally different. Now, we have all those side grades too, so although my TR soldier might start with a sniper rifle that does a little bit less damage than the NC sniper rifle starts off as, his is a semi-automatic. And through his side grades, he can grow into basically being very similar to the NC, but never quite as distinct in terms of the most damage per shot as the NC can. So side grades allow you to sort of make it so that you can play on the team that your friends are playing on without having to play exactly in that faction's playstyle, but you're never going to be able to get to the extremes that each one of the factions can get to in terms of maneuverability or damage or fire rate or accuracy and that sort of thing. I'm kind of curious, how many of you were at E3 and actually got to play the game at E3? It's about half. So, for those of you who haven't yet and haven't really gotten a chance to play it yet, I think you can kind of see just by watching that this game feels and plays very much like a modern AAA shooter game. As I mentioned right at the beginning, one of the things that was really important to us was not sacrificing any of these. Was not sacrificing any of the moment-to-moment gameplay to be able to have the massive combat gameplay. So that's something that's been a huge undertaking for us, is being able to deliver these gigantic, enormous battles. But it's really paid off, because now we have a game that feels like, to anybody who comes and picks it up, it feels like every FPS game that they've ever played except for gigantic. And then once they get under the hood a little bit, they realize that there's this massive strategic depth and the ability for you to have all this personalization and customization, squad-based mechanics, outfit-based mechanics, and leadership stuff all built in. So going a little bit further about things like player coordination, we have an outfit system. This is our equivalent of guild. It's as robust as you would expect to see in any of today's MMORPG games. So it really allows players to create their own ranks, their own permissions, coordinate. It has built-in voice chat. So our squads also have built-in voice chat. So you can just join an outfit and immediately be in voice over IP. You don't have to go to a specific server for them to talk to them or anything. The outfit leaders can set up different permissions for for who can talk, and if only officers can talk. You can create multiple channels for all that sort of stuff. So it's a really in-depth and really robust outfit system. You can also customize. So like, I want to have my outfit look a certain way. Outfit uniforms, there you go. So you have all kinds of different outfit customizability that allows you to really make sure that your outfit looks distinct and stands out from other people. That's something that's really important to us too, is if you see these guys coming, you kind of know who they are and what they're all about. If it's a Liberator group, he's flying a Liberator gunship here, you'll really get a good feeling for those guys being really professional Liberator guys, because you know that this outfit really specializes in that type of gameplay. The Liberator's not as exciting when there's not a gunner and then firing a massive cannon on the bottom of it. Now Adam's just showing off. This is why he's known as like the guy who can't fly airplanes. Excellent work. Excellent work. Another thing that we have in besides the outfit level is sort of one step down from that is platoons. Platoons are groups of squads, essentially, that are able to coordinate on a larger scale. And then we have squads, which anybody who plays any kind of shooter should be familiar with, or if you play MMOs, it's very much similar to a group. This is a small tactical group that is, you can spawn with your squad leader, but one of the things that sets our squads apart is we actually have squad leader as a certification tree too. So if you have a squad leader who spent a lot of time in leveling up squad leader abilities, he's going to be able to do a lot of really cool things to make your squad better, like that squad spawning mechanic. You don't have access to squad spawning just by default if you join a random squad, but if your squad leader has unlocked squad spawning as an ability, now suddenly you have this really cool way to enter the world to quickly get back into combat. And other squad abilities are going to allow them to do things like create squad waypoints, that fighting in the vicinity of those waypoints gives you bonus experience. So you could put a waypoint for something like, I want to have a tank support here, and players who bring tanks in are going to be able to gain additional experience in there. That's one of the things we call the mission system. Mission system is a really important way for players to be able to coordinate easily without necessarily having to be in an outfit, without necessarily having to have spent months playing the game to be able to figure out how to play in these massive battles. All you need to do is look for a mission that exists. I'm surprised you got them. Your weapons are not really well suited for taking out Max. Maxes are another one of our classes. This is a really iconic class from the original Planetside. So he has two different weapons that he can put on each arm, and right now he has an anti-infantry weapon on his left arm and an anti-air weapon, like a flat cannon, over on his right arm. So fighting against something very armored like this tank does in front of him, or that Max, isn't going to work very well because it doesn't have any anti-vehicle weapons in there. But you managed to pull it off. So the mission system, going back to that, basically allows us to say if you need to be able to get something like a galaxy, which is our transport ship, to a certain area, a squad leader who's unlocked these different abilities to create missions can select a transport logistics mission, place it there, and anybody who's signed up in the world for looking at transport missions because they want to know something they can do right now that's valuable in their galaxy, to be able to go on the map and see that mission and that it exists and just fly over there and know that they can do the thing that they want to do and be useful right there. It's a really kind of seamless, easy way for commanders who are sort of the more invested, strategic thinking players to be able to rally the forces that maybe just jumping in and just want to have a kick-ass FPS experience with 1,000 other players and might not necessarily want to do all the work involved in learning how to coordinate and all that sort of stuff. So to us, that's the way to get the guys who are sort of more casual FPS players really ramped up and involved in playing the larger scale board games like this. That's up too. Nice. You can see we have mechanics like reviving. We have medics, which is one of our classes. They have access to multiple different types of healing methods, whether they can heal an entire squad at once or whether they heal directly at once. And each of those has, again, different trade-offs. So depending on your play style, depending on your squad, how you want to play, you have just the ability to play exactly the way that makes sense for the situation that you're in. You guys are really hitting. So you need to get some anti-vehicle weapons on here, dude. Nice. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So Ty just mentioned to talk a little bit about some of the differences between these bases. We have 3 different main facility types in the game at launch. This one that we're fighting in right now is called the tech facility. We have one called Biolab, which we can show you guys a little bit later. And we also have the amp station, which is the one that we showed primarily at E3. Each one of these is really unique in the way that they play because of the size of the superstructure and how the little bases are arranged around it. But each one of these in the world is actually completely unique too. So one amp station in the world plays completely differently than another one. They'll have different capture points. They'll have different, they'll be spread out in different ways. Some of them will be really tight in terms of how many capture points there are and how close together they are. Some of them will be really sparse, so they support vehicle gameplay much more. Some of them will have a lot more indoor space, so the capture points are largely indoor, so infantry is really important. Some of them might have capture points that are up on the roof, so aircraft are really important to the aircraft. Again, this is all going back to us creating just a huge variety of different types of gameplay situations for people to go through. And we found in Planetside 1, again, going back to some of the things that we learned from that game, is certain outfits and certain players would be really, really good at fighting in certain areas. They wanted to fight in certain places because they were really familiar with the terrain there, and they were able to hold off battles in certain types of facilities better than others. Certain factions were just naturally suited at doing indoor fighting versus other factions that were naturally suited at doing outdoor fighting. So, depending on how characters progress through the map and started capturing stuff, there could be a shift based on which empire is being which you're getting slaughtered. Based on which empire is fighting at which facility. And we really wanted to carry that forward to Planetside 2 also, and make sure that we had just a huge, yeah. So having a fast time to kill is another thing that's really important for sort of the more modern style FPS games. And you can see when you get lots and lots of players there at once, you can get to a, well, you had a nice healing buddy there. Kept reviving it. Typically speaking, that wouldn't happen. But yeah, so each one of these bases, every time you go through and fight it, it's going to feel like a completely different experience. It's never going to feel like, oh, I'm going to go fight it in an amp station again. They're really going to be unique. Now, Indar is one of 3 continents that we're aiming for having right now. We haven't really shown anything from the other continents yet. We've been showing Indar primarily, but the other ones are in progress, and we're still planning on having them in at launch. So the idea is not only one gigantic 64 square kilometer continent that can support 2,000 players, but 3. And each one of those has access to different types of bases, different layouts. They're going to have different strategic kind of gameplay just based on things like weather, how foggy it is in one of them versus the other. Might make it so that, I think I should have stood there. Is going to make it so that flying aircraft is a lot more viable on Indar or Esamir than it is on, say, Amherst, which might be a little more foggy one. And again, all this is just to make it so that as you're fighting in different areas, it feels better. How are you guys doing on the space capture? It's disastrous. So the thing that makes all this possible, and I know a lot of you guys have heard us talk about it a little bit, is we've spent a huge amount of time and effort making a new engine for this game specifically that we call Forge Light.